Well, a diplomatic source has been quoted by AFP suggesting that, in fact, Donald Trump's warning that there would be all hell to pay if the hostages haven't been released by January 20 when he has his inauguration, that has seen a softening of Hamas' position. And I guess you could add to that the weakening of Hezbollah and Iran recently, and of course Syria adds to that pressure on Hamas being more isolated right now. But as I said, a diplomatic source tells AFP that Trump's language has already shifted the dial, so to speak. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, this is what a strong leader does, and this is why we should be aligning ourselves with the United States, a friend of Israel, a true partner of Israel in the Middle East, instead of what Penny Wong as a foreign minister has been doing since October the 7th on the floor of the UN, which is playing domestic politics. Leadership requires you to say uncomfortable things that aren't necessarily popular in your domestic home patch to actually get the right outcome. And the right outcome is that the hostages are returned as the very bare minimum of any sort of proposed ceasefire, whereas our government has gone another way. So I think what it shows is strong leadership, decisive leadership, unwavering clarity on what needs to happen in order for ceasefire talks to actually have a foundation for going forward is exactly what the US President-elect has done, and it is in stark contrast to our own government, which is a shame.
Also, suggestions that a deal could be done by the end of the year. We will monitor that closely. Let's look at the issue out of Ukraine now. The government finally sending the ambassador back on a permanent basis, our embassy reopening in Kyiv. That's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been calling for that for a long time. Our allies and partners were back, from mid-22 onwards. We all stand with the courageous people of Ukraine in this war. We've been, obviously, as a country, supporting them with hardware and information. But getting that diplomatic presence on the ground, I think, is critical. We think it's obviously taken too long, but welcome it happening as of this week, which is fantastic.
Has the coalition, just finally before you go, have you got yourself tied in knots a bit over the promise to reduce power prices with the nuclear plan? Because at the announcement, Ted O'Brien said that hadn't been modelled. Now, the coalition suggesting that it is going to reduce power prices by 44%. Which is it?
Well, Kieran, price is, absolutely tied to cost. So if something's going to cost you 44% less, i.e. your pathway to net zero, then the price of what's being produced at the end of the line will similarly go down. That is just a simple law of economics. And we know that our plan to get to net zero by 2050 and secure our energy supplies into next century will be 44% cheaper than Labor's plan. Labor's been trying to spruik their costings at 5 times less than the actual cost. And that's been the problem.
But if it was so simple,
I have
why didn't Ted
absolute
O'Brien
confidence.
just say that?
I have absolute confidence, but I have absolute confidence, Kieran, in the modelling and the work and analysis we've had out of Frontier Economics shows that our plan will be cheaper, and therefore the price of the energy being produced through that plan will also be lower than it will be under Labor.
Bridget McKenzie, thanks. We'll talk to you next year. Have a great Christmas and New Year. Appreciate it.
You too, mate.